So I want to do this video based off of yesterday's video, which has created a little bit of curiosity in some people. So I want to try and clear up one or two issues in there, because what you have to remember is with a lot of these videos is I'm trying to talk to the people that feel like they're really stuck. They're not going forward. And that might be in a way where they're feeling down continuously. And it could be down continuously for months and unfortunately in some cases for years. And it can also be for those people that are they feel like they're dipping in and out of feeling good, then not feeling so good. Feeling good, not feeling so good. So yesterday's video was trying to base an idea that sometimes, even when if we're having a good period, which might only be a couple of days or it might be a couple of weeks, but we kind of have this feeling underneath that we're still not moving forward. We're not going anywhere, or we can't see the end to this heartache that seems to be the dark night of the soul. That's the point of yesterday's video, is trying to explain that sometimes this doesn't go for everyone. This goes for those people that are really stuck. That sometimes even the thoughts that come up in us that seem logically viable are actually our mind-made self now. So when I say the ego, it's like our mind-made self, the story that we've always told ourselves, or the story we've had implanted to us from the conditioning, so our generational beliefs. That's why I do videos of how strong the conditioning is because it can come up even in our logical, what we would deem as logical viable thoughts to have. They can ultimately be thoughts that will keep us in the place that we're at, because it doesn't want the real you to venture forward because it's unfamiliar. So we're talking about the mind-made self now. It's unfamiliar to go forward. This is how it sees it. You're already feeling shit and you're not paying attention to me. So therefore, I'm going to keep, in other words, guys, it's not a sneaky thing that's going on. I say things like that to try and make the videos light and humorous, but it's the mind's way of saying, yeah, but, to absolutely everything. And so after a while, and that's why I say in the video, we don't need to pay heavy attention to those thoughts as such. Sorry, guys. We don't need to pay a heavy attention to those thoughts as such. We just need to be aware of them. Because it's in that awareness of those thoughts, whether they feel good or whether they feel bad. It's in that awareness of those thoughts and really noticing the feelings that come up with those thoughts. That's where we can really learn about, oh, you're keeping me stuck. I'm thinking you're there because you're making me feel good. But ultimately, whatever that thought might be, it's there and it comes up and it asks you questions. It's very nice to you. It's very polite to you. So it does no harm. It seems like a logical question based off of all the conditioning that's always been taught in us. So it seems like a logical question to ask. It's not one that frightens you or gives you fear, but it's one that can ultimately be the reason why you're staying that little bit stuck. It's a very... Let me tell you this little thing as well. Some of the guys, I know that they can understand what I'm trying to say, and maybe this is why they don't leave videos, because it seems very complex to explain. But it's only to explain it is difficult. Once we move forward in the dark night of the soul, this is why I often say about the nice things that are to come as well, so that we can kind of look forward to it. But once we do start moving forward, or you come out of it and you get very relaxed in the dark night of the soul, when you look back, you then look back and you think, oh, it's actually really simple. Just be aware of my thoughts. There is no, when the consciousness comes into us, when the actual being comes into us properly, or we unravel that, if you like, and this is part of the process of unraveling, watching these videos, and they will make us a little bit confused sometimes. But once we kind of unravel that and our consciousness comes out, it doesn't ask those type of questions. It doesn't ask them because ultimately it knows where to go, or your consciousness will kind of guide you to a path in life. There's lots I could explain it. It kind of guides you to a path in life that you kind of just float down. Float. See, when you say that, this is the false illusion that I'm constantly trying not to give. So the word float implies this, oh, it's just a lovely breeze. No, that's not spiritual. Maybe for some people, that's not what I experienced. And I'm trying to talk to the people that maybe, I can only give my experience, by the way, of Dark Night of the Soul and how it affected me and how I then learned and realised what was keeping me stuck. And it was by pulling the little pins on all of those little areas that took a couple of years of hurt. And this is what I said in the last video. It requires deep breaths sometimes of, okay, let's be aware of it. Let's stay aware of everything. It can be hard. But I do give my experiences over. So it might not be relevant to every single person in the Dark Night of the Soul. But the idea will be the same for everyone. Whilst we're in there, once you come out of the other side of Dark Night of the Soul, if you like, for want of a better word for the video, when we come out of the other side, you don't spend your life asking these questions. You don't spend your life in this constant confused state of, I feel good, now I feel bad, I feel good, I feel bad. You will have, life, it doesn't mean life's so smooth either, but what it does mean is your awareness. So here's your thoughts there, and around that is like this awareness of everything's okay. And this thing in the middle just kind of becomes irrelevant. And because you're now not looping these thoughts in your head, because there's not a constant question of, am I okay? Am I being accepted? Am I being liked? Am I doing the right thing? Am I going to die if I do this thing? They're kind of, because they're not there, you then are it's very easy to then identify thoughts that come up that perhaps you should pay attention to. And those thoughts, more often than not, would be something maybe like, this is now when you kind of come out and you're very relaxed. It might be a thought of, oh, I feel like leaving a YouTube video. So guess what? You will just leave a YouTube video. This is the beauty of the consciousness. That is the beauty of spirituality. That is the real beauty of the awareness, the stillness, the spaciousness, the isness that gets spoken about. That's the beauty of that. But what that doesn't mean is that when you leave that video, everything's going to be great. You might get some backlash from those videos. Thankfully, I haven't. And you guys show me lots of love. But it's to come. It will come. And that's the whole point there. So when we're in the ego self, now this might be a good example to try and explain. So when we're in the mind-made self, the ego self, there might be a part of us that wants to leave a YouTube video, but straight away, instant, no, that's not going to happen. I'm no good at that. No one's going to listen to me. No one's interested in what I have to say about Dark Night of the Soul. Who am I? I don't have qualifications. I'm rubbish. I'm useless. I'm crap. I'm shit. Don't do it. But that's the ego that comes into it. Now, we could be in the Dark Night of the Soul for weeks, months, years. Once we get through it, or once we become established in there, and we're very comfortable with that, we then get to a point where everything's kind of relaxed. This is the kind of stage where, I say kind of stage, this is where ultimately my life is now. I don't like saying things like that, guys. I really don't. But I have to drop them in to give encouragement. But when you kind of get to those points in life, you then think, oh, I'd like to leave a video. You still feel the nerves. You will still ask the questions, but the video gets done. There's no ulterior questioning of, yeah, but no one's going to listen to you. Yeah, but you're thick. Or if there is, it's there, but it's not paid attention to, because there's the thought and the awareness is around it, knowing that everything is okay. And when you feel like that, ultimately, you will then leave the video, if you like, and you can relay the video, guys, into any area in life. Should I be with my partner? Should I change jobs? Should I leave my partner? Whatever it is, should I contact my mum who I've not spoken to for 50 years? All of these things. It becomes, when that comes from the awareness, they kind of don't become an issue. You know that you've got you, and you know that you're safe in your own hands. But to get to that point, I try to do these videos that help those who are ultimately completely stuck and feel like they're going nowhere. I'm trying to give them little pointers as to perhaps what area of themselves to pay attention to. In fact, I'll make that even simpler. At that moment, when you're there, be aware of everything. Just be aware of everything that you're thinking. It's in that awareness that you will learn about yourself. And when I say this is where it seems very complex and complicated at times, but it's not. It's very simple. So when I say be aware of things all the time, of course, you're not going to be. And that's the other point, is it's okay if you haven't been. If you go through a day where you think, shit, I've just kind of really gone through that on autopilot, and ultimately that day was spent doing something that you didn't want to do, i.e. maybe your job. Don't beat yourself, this is what I'm trying, don't beat yourself up about the fact that you wasn't aware of every thought that you had all day long. But at the end of the day, perhaps when you go for your walk, you can then be aware of how you felt through the day, what thoughts were coming up through the day. And this doesn't have to be some deep, intense thing. You can meditate on it, or you can go for a walk on it, or just relax on it. But by being aware of it, that's where you will find those little moments of, that didn't make me feel good, although the thought I was having seemed like it was a good one. But ultimately, it was a thought that was getting me through something, as opposed to making me cope with something, as opposed to moving me forward. I'm trying to think of an example of that kind of thought, but it's really difficult. Lots of us in life in general, if we're not very happy with our lives, we can overdrink on caffeine. Let's keep it simple. Don't want to go down drugs and alcohol and all that. We know, we kind of all grasp the ideas of that. But the ones that we don't think are gentle, so like the thoughts that come up, we can resort to things that make us deal with a moment. And that moment could be an hour or 2 hours, whatever. So we might binge scroll on our phone. We might have our 10th coffee of the day. We might eat a load of junk food. We might, I don't know, watch the news, which is always bloody dangerous. Don't do that shit. You know, we might, it's those little things that we do in those situations that we're unconsciously doing that help us cope with a moment. And it's at the end of the day, say, after your day of doing whatever it is you're doing, you then give yourself that space, that time alone, to then reflect back. And you might identify those little areas. And it's in those little areas that you can think, oh, you're keeping me stuck. I'm doing that as a digression away from actually sitting with something, sitting with a dark thought or a dark feeling. It's staying there. We don't always want to address the things that start to make us inside feel a little bit uncomfortable. So we'll divert away from them. I think we get the concept of that. So I'm trying to break down inside of that the little tiny areas that can also be happening that we might not pay attention to. And in a nutshell, guys, all it really is like I say, we just try to become more aware of ourselves. Let's put it this way as well. If we're not in the dark night of the soul, if we're completely still unconscious to life, if we're still completely brainwashed, if you like, and suppressed, and we're in the matrix, none of this is happening, remember? None of this is going on. These videos and stuff are designed for the people who are in the dark night of the soul. They know something's happened. They can see the matrix for what it was and all it is, but they can't see who they are going to be. It's that separation, that pulling apart the matrix and the new world, where the pain is created, the confusion is created, the anger, the angst, the turmoil. And it's by being aware of that that is the process that is happening in the dark night of the soul. It's the separation, and it's being aware of all the different areas of the separation. That's where the healing takes place. The healing does not take place in the distracting away from what we need to address in the dark night of the soul. Should I leave it there? But you just have to remember that what you used as distraction in the matrix was unconscious to you then. Well, the distraction that you used in the matrix was unconscious to you then. You didn't know you was distracting. Now in the dark night of the soul, we may be doing the same thing and not aware of it. Because don't forget, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in now. And now we're only out here for a little while. And we've got to try and establish what's doing what. We know we need to. Not all of us know how to. And these videos are just there to try and help those guys that are stuck, to point out lots of different areas to give them thought. A lot of people who are really stuck deep down in throws like watching videos like this. I know I did. They like watching videos like this because it can bring on many little light bulb moments, or many little areas you think, oh, okay. Sometimes some people will be watching these and something will trigger. They'll go, oh, I do that. I do that. That's how I would. That's kind of what kept pulling me forward. But these videos won't be relevant for everyone. And they won't even be relevant for everyone who are completely stuck in the dark night of the soul. But for some, they will. So I hope that clears it up a little bit for some of you, or I hope you found that interesting. And remember, guys, I will try and answer your questions on the comments, but things are very busy now, especially as I talk to some of you. And so I try and answer these questions and the emails and stuff like that, which is fine. So it's not, you know, I love what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing, but it's trying to find the time to do that. So either way, once you start stepping forward, once you settle into the dark night of the soul, it's nice here. It really is, guys. So hang in there. It does get easier. And in answer to one person's questions, yes, you will know the difference between what is a very relevant thought, if you like, and thoughts that don't need attention paid to them. That becomes very simple. But when we're stuck right deep down, it's not simple. But how it does, the confusion does end. I promise you, it ends. Anyway, guys, I hope that was interesting. Please email me or ask questions away, and I'm happy to try and help. Remember, I am open for one-to-one consultations if any of you feel you need that. It's a lovely, beautiful, clear, blue, sunny day here. So today's video was going to be a different one, but I thought I'd answer yesterday's one. So today, my video is kind of now done, and I'm going to spend the rest of the day writing and doing whatever I do up the river and stuff. Anyway, guys, love every one of you. Thank you so much, and take care.